Okay. All right. So introducing Python. So I think everybody have your PDF ready on your desktop. You have downloaded it. If yes, you can have a look at it. Okay. Even I have the same PDF on the screen over here. So before starting, I would like to give you a very important note. Convince your mind. You will not be able to understand everything today. Just move on. Okay. You would be coming across a lot of topics which are very new to you, and don't get scared. Don't get panicked. Okay, don't feel that, oh, you, what is Subhash talking about, I'm not able to understand and all that. Absolutely okay. Okay, if there is something that you can understand, I would be teaching you. Okay, and I would stress upon that. Or something if you don't understand and I feel that it would be those things would be clarified in further chapters, I would be clarifying it over there. Is that okay? Just say okay if you're okay with that. Just put in the comment box okay. Okay, yeah, awesome. So we're all yeah, cool. So we're all starting to learn Python, but I think it is not really good to start learning Python without appreciating the person who actually implemented it. Okay, and the one who actually implemented is none other than Guido van Rossum. Okay, in the year 1991. Trust me, this guy, I was going through this internet. Okay, so while I was researching on Python long back, I was going through the internet to just figure out, okay, how did he actually come up with this idea of Python. So I found a very interesting article, a very interesting story and interview given by himself. He said that he was on his vacation to his hometown in Canada. Okay, and there he wanted to spend his 2 to 3 months vacation, and he started implementing this, Python as a hobby project. Okay, which is today the world's third most popular language, which people have been using right now. I don't think we ourselves would have utilized the vacation like that. Such a mastermind. And it was in 1991. Okay, and today Python has grown to all possible heights. People are using like anything, and the students are learning it. It's one of the fantastic and popular language. Okay, so the appreciation is for Rossum, and the credit goes to Rossum. Big hats off to him actually. Right, so having said that, right, so what do you think would be the very first step to learn any programming language? What would be the very first step to learn Python language? What is, not only Python, whether it would be C language, it would be a Java language, it would be Python language, or any programming language for that matter. Okay, what would be the very first step? Very first step. What would be the first step that you would take to learn any programming language? Any idea? You can actually put in the chat box. Okay, so if you didn't get an idea, then I would ask you one more question. Can you tell me what is the first step to actually cook your favorite Hyderabadi vegetable biryani? If you like chicken biryani, mutton biryani, whatever it is, you can replace that in place of that. Okay, what is the very first step to cook your favorite Hyderabadi vegetable biryani? Okay, someone is saying recipe. Okay, recipe is one thing you need. Even if so, if recipe is there, you ingredients. Okay, if recipe and ingredients are there, you will have your biryani ready. So what is the first step? Recipe, yes. Okay, assume you have the recipe, assume you have your ingredients. Then what is it? What is it needed? What is it needed? What else is needed? Okay, what else? Steps. Okay, anyone wants to unmute yourself and answer to me? Yes, you can do that also. Okay, making of biryani. Raghav is saying make your stove is needed. Okay, cook rice, to switch on gas. Okay, need a guide or be the guide ourselves. Okay, ingredients, skill to cook. Assume you have all these things here. Come on, then what? Of course you have these basic skills, instructions of particular language. To cook vegetable biryani, Modi needs instructions of particular programming language. Hey, Modi, seriously, I'm talking about biryani, you're talking about programming language. Yeah, I'll come to programming language, correct, Molly. But yeah, so first question is, what is that you need to cook your vegetable biryani? Okay, intention and interest to cook. Okay, spiritual kirtana is completely interested in intention, having intention to cook. Okay, so no kirtana before that. Before that, what is that you need? Okay, anyone else? Anyone else? Quickly, you can unmute yourself and tell me what is that basic thing that you actually need. Okay, now let me ask you this. Okay, so Srihari is trying to be a very smart fellow. Okay, he's telling hunger is a thing. Yeah, when you are very hungry, you go in search of vegetable biryani or chicken biryani. It is idli and vada, idli and sambar will not be enough for you. You need biryani only when you are hungry, isn't it? Huh, Srihari? Yeah, vessel. It seems basic idea of cooking. It seems okay. 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 Let me ask this question. Okay. Now, can you cook? Can you cook? Sir, I don't know how to cook. Okay. Now listen to me carefully. Yeah. Okay. My question is, I did not ask you whether you know to cook. You don't know to cook. My question was, okay. Basically, a common sense question is that what is that you basically need to cook your favorite Hyderabadi vegetable biryani? That is a question and you're supposed to answer for it. Okay, so thing is that, okay, let me actually take up the question in another way. Lakshmi, you're there? Lakshmi Krishnappa, you're there? Lakshmi Krishnappa, you're there? Lakshmi, you're there, right? Can you please unmute yourself, Lakshmi?
Sir.
Yeah, Lakshmi. So answer me, Lakshmi. So do you think you can cook, you know to cook, Lakshmi?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So you must be able to answer me. So do you think can you cook vegetable biryani in your bedroom?
No, sir. No. Sir.
Why not? Why not? Why can't you cook? What is stopping you from cooking?
So we need utensils.
Okay, you need utensils. So you don't have it in your bedroom? You have, you don't have?
Ingredients.
You need ingredients and all that. So you don't have all that in your what is that, bedroom, isn't it? Yeah, exactly. So Raghavi gave me the right answer.
Sir, actually.
Yeah, okay, no problem. So Raghavi gave the exact answer. What you need is an atmosphere to cook, or what you need is an environment to cook, my dear friends. Okay, so I asked Lakshmi if you can cook biryani in the bedroom. Okay, it is not that you cannot cook. You can cook your biryani in the bedroom provided you have that environment. Correct? No. Now, what do you mean by this environment? Environment is that, okay, so you need a utensils, you need all the utensils, you need your stove, you need your gas, you need your cutleries, you need your ingredients, you need your recipe would be in your mind, forget about it. Okay, utensils, the groceries, your vegetables, or chicken or gas stove, all these things, right? Do you think all these things would be in your bedroom? If all these things are there in your bedroom, no one can stop you from cooking your vegetable biryani in the bedroom. Yes or no? But unfortunately, bedroom is not for cooking, rather bedroom is for sleeping. Agree, disagree? Yes or no? And the only room in your house that gives you the environment to cook your vegetable biryani is the kitchen. Agree, disagree with me? Yes or no? If you agree, just say agree. If you agree, just say agree. Correct? So the only place in your home that gives you that environment is your kitchen. And what you need first to cook your Hyderabadi vegetable biryani is your environment. Agree, disagree? Okay, so what is that environment having? The kitchen environment is having your utensils, it has your ingredients, it has your gas stove, everything is there, so that you can just whatever you want utensils, it is there next to you. You want your gas stove, everything is there next to you itself. You do not worry about anything else, and you can actually prepare your vegetable biryani, isn't it? So similarly, what is that first step that you actually need to learn your Python language or Java language or C language or any programming language for that matter? What is that you need? What you need is an environment on your computer. Okay, if suppose you want to learn Python, you got to make your computer environment ready. It means you got to download your Python software, okay, install it on your computer, so that when you write programs in Python, that software will help you execute and run those programs and give you your output. Got it or not? If you got it, just say got it. Okay, the first step is you need your Python software installed. Okay, so when I talk about Python software, it is those libraries, runtime libraries, which will help you execute your program, including your Python virtual machine, your interpreter, your compiler, all these stuffs, along with something called as IDE, integrated development environment. Okay, all these things. Now you might ask me, Subhash, where do I actually find, how do I install this onto my computer? Okay, I want to learn now, I want to install all this, how do I do it? Don't worry. Okay, see your material, I've given you a link. It's a PDF, it will take you to that particular website. Don't go to that website for now. Okay, so it is my own website, which says how to install Python on it. If suppose you're working on Windows, if you're working on Linux, or you're working on Mac. Okay, for all these three machines, I have given you step by step instruction on how to install Python on your computer. Along with that, there is something called as Python idle, where you actually write programs, compile and run and all that, and how to get started with Python idle is also given along with this. So if you can go through these two links after today's session, okay, then you will be able to install it. And before coming to tomorrow's session, you are supposed to install it and be ready. Is that okay? You have full 24 hours of time. Is that okay? Okay, if you're okay, just say okay in the comment box. Okay, and if you have any doubts, instead of chatting, you can unmute yourself and you can ask me, so that I'll be able to explain you in a much better way. Is that okay? right? Yeah, and I kindly request everyone to please switch on your video. I just want to see everyone over here. Okay, please don't keep your video off. Okay, it's terribly irritating for a teacher to have, because it's not any normal webinar or anything. I want to see your face. I want to interact. Trust me, I'm really a teacher. Okay, so I can record the videos and give it to you basically, but I don't want to sell it like this, because I want to interact with you guys. Okay, I have few specific principles and I want to follow that. Is that okay? So please make sure you have your video on, and I might ask anyone any question randomly, so be prepared for it. Is that okay? Yeah, and if I don't see anyone, then I will stop talking to them throughout the course from now on. I want you to just listen to me and follow my instructions very thoroughly. Is that okay? Yeah, right. Having said that, now let me now move on to the next question. Okay, now, okay, what is the difference between C, Java and Python? Any idea? Any idea? You can unmute yourself and say, what is the difference between C, Java and Python? Any idea of C, Java and Python? Any idea? You can, whatever it is, you can. Molly, why don't you unmute and talk here? It's okay. Okay, C is oops oriented. Bhavna, where is Bhavna? I want to know. Bhavna, C is oops oriented. My goodness, C is oops oriented. I'll come. Where is your house? Send me your house address.
Sir, I was about to type not and.
Okay, it's okay. Right. Okay. So any idea? Okay. See, basically what happens is that, okay, listen. Okay. Now listen. Okay. Basically what happens is that many times whenever I start a programming language, a classes for programming language, or whenever I talk about programming language, right, the first thing that comes in anybody's mind is that which language is the best? Whether C is best, whether Java is best, or Python is best, or C++ is best. This is a normal question that comes in everybody's mind. Okay. So I would like to answer that question. Is that, okay, let me first give you the difference between these and then explain you which is the best one or which is not the best one, or is there anything such thing called as best one or not the best one and all that. Okay, before that, okay, now let me write a program to add two numbers using C. Okay, if you don't understand C, okay, just look at the screen that I'm writing. Is that okay? Right? What is the program all about? The program is all about adding two numbers, and I am using C language for that, right? How do I do it? Now, if it is in C language, okay, now listen, don't type anything for now, just listen to me carefully. Okay, don't type anything, just listen and just see the screen. Okay, yeah, I'll come to that in some time. Now let me write this code in C. Okay, it is, okay, int main. It's a function, int main. Okay, you must understand that there is no C program without a function. Yes or no? There is no C program. If you don't know C program, absolutely okay, don't worry about it. But I would like to say that this is basically called as a function, and there is no C program without a function. You are supposed to write it inside a function. You are supposed to write code within a particular function. There should be at least one function, and that function is main function. Okay, so if I want to add two numbers, I need to create two variables. Okay, and the third variable to store the value, int a b sum semicolon. I will store a value of say 5 inside A. I would store a value of 6 into B. Okay, and I would actually add these two. Sum is equal to A plus B, and then I print this value on the screen using printf. Okay, let me write pf as completely printf. Okay, that is printf. Okay, printf, and then say sum is equal to, use the format specifier, and then say sum. This is how a C program will look like to add two numbers. Agree, disagree? Agree, disagree? People who know C language can just say agree. If you have anytime attended my C session, you know C language, you can just say agree. Okay, no, this is how a C program actually looks like. Okay, fine. Now, if suppose I want to write the same thing using Java, I want to do it using Java. Okay, now the problem, not the problem, but Java mandates that, okay, if you want to write any function, it has to be there within a particular class. It is important that you must have a class. There is no function without a class. So let me call it as class add. Okay, open the brace, and within this you are supposed to write your method. Okay, you call functions as methods in Java when it is placed inside the class. Public, not necessary you must know Java, I'm just trying to give you an example. Public static void main. Okay, within that I will have something called as string args. Okay, string args. Okay, and then I would actually write open brace. I would again create three variables, int a comma b comma sum semicolon. I'll give values to this. A is equal to 5 semicolon, b is equal to 6 semicolon, and then I would say sum is equal to a plus b. The same thing that I did it for C. And then later I will have to print the values. I will use the call system.out.println and I print this value as sum. Sum. Okay, close brace, close brace. So what Java says is that if you want to write any code in Java, right, okay, there should be a method, but that method should be enclosed within a class. It is mandatory. It is mandatory. Okay, C, no need of a class. There is no concept called as class in C language. In Java there is a concept of called as class. Okay, and then it is mandatory that you got to write any code within a method, and that method should be placed inside a class. It is mandatory to have a class. Whereas now if I write the same code using Python, don't worry, I'll explain Python again in detail from tomorrow with programs. Okay, but if you want to do that within using Python, right, you know what happens in Python? Check out, it is just this: a is equal to 5 semicolon, b is equal to 6, sorry, there is no semicolon here. Okay, a is equal to 5, b is equal to 6, and then what I do is I say sum is equal to a plus b. Okay, a plus b, and I use a print function, print, and then say sum. That's all. It's only 4 lines. There is no function, there is no class, just directly do what is intended to do. You got what I'm trying to tell you? You're getting it? You're getting what I'm saying? You got what I'm trying to tell you, right? Now you tell me which is easier or which is difficult, or whatever it is, whatever you call. Let us just discuss and then say, okay, which is easier? Answer this question among all. Which is easier? Which is easier? Right now, of course, yes, Python is more easier to write compared to C and Java. In C, you're supposed to have your function. In Java, you're supposed to have your function within a particular class. Whereas in Python, you don't need to have a function or a class. You just want to add two numbers, just straightforward, just do it and print it. That's all. Now, having said this, just because Python is easier doesn't mean Python is the best language. Okay, nor just because C doesn't have class doesn't mean C is the best language. Or when I say Java has a class and within that it has a method, I'm not saying Java is the best language. Anyone who calls a particular language as the best language, it is clearly understood that guy doesn't understand languages or programming or computer science at all. Okay, so what I'm trying to tell you is Python is easier, but doesn't mean it is the best among all. What I'm trying to tell you is that each and every language has its own pros and cons. That is its own advantages, its own disadvantages, and each and every language is used for a specific functionality. Okay, it is used to solve a problem of a particular area. Okay, say for example, if you want to write operating system, if you want to write system software, there is no other language other than C. C is the best language because C was designed by Ritchie to talk to the hardware, not for anything else. While designing C language, right, he had nothing else in mind. He wrote C language only to talk to the hardware, and C is best suited for system programming. Now, when coming to Java, right, people ask, why don't you write system programming using Java? When the wheel is already invented, why do you want to reinvent the wheel? Right? No, Java developers knew that for the operating system, okay, C is already there. Why should I reinvent the wheel? And he wrote Java for object-oriented applications. Okay, whereas in this case, if you see, C language is basically called as procedure-oriented language. It does not have objects. Any problem you got to solve using C, it has to be solved using only functions, or you can also call it as procedures. That is why functions can also be called as procedures, and that is why it is called as procedure-oriented language. Whereas Java, any problem you got to solve in Java, you got to make use of objects. Okay, if you have a class, then you will have an object for that class. Keep this in mind. If you have a class, then you will have an object for that class, and that is why it is called as object-oriented language. Okay, everything that you solve using Java, any problem that you solve using Java is basically done using objects, and no wonder it is called as a pure object-oriented language. Okay, can you create objects in C? Is it possible to create objects in C? Is it possible to create objects in C? It is possible to create in objects in C. It is possible to create objects in C. There's a concept called a structure in C language, and in C it is possible to create objects. but it is not a fully blown object, or it is not a full-fledged object. Okay, it does not have instance variables, or it does not have methods or anything like that. It is just a dummy object. Okay, so the advanced version of that is basically your object oriented programming. So in Java you can have objects will have methods, it has actions, it has, I mean, it's nothing but behavior, it has instance variables and lot more. Okay, the objects in Java are more matured, very matured than the objects in C language. Okay, so don't worry about all this. Now coming to Python. Okay, now you tell me whether Python is object oriented language or procedure oriented language. What is it? Is Python procedure oriented language or object oriented language? Okay, now if suppose I want to call it as an object oriented language, there is no object over here. It is not looking like it contains any object. Now if I want to call Python as a procedure oriented language, there is not even a function present over here. Yes or no? Now how do I classify this into object oriented language or procedure oriented language? Any idea? The answer for that is that Python is both, okay, object oriented in nature and procedure oriented in nature, because in the current example there is no function, but functions are supported by Python. It is supported in Python. Okay, and do you know, there is, for now you don't feel like it looks objects, but anything and everything that Python understands is all about object. Keep this in mind. I know now many things are running in your mind. What is Subhash talking about objects? What is procedure? What is function? Nothing is going. Yes or no? I have joined this class, all money wasted. You feel that or not? Yes or no? Right? Don't feel like that. Okay, I will teach you what is object, what is class and all later. For now, you got to understand that anything and everything in Python is treated as object. Is that okay? Anything and everything that you got, that you actually treat in Python is in terms of objects only. It doesn't understand anything else. Your variables are objects, your list is an object, your function is an object, everything is in terms of object. Okay, so what am I trying to tell you here? Python has the capability to behave like a procedure oriented language. It also has the capability to behave like a object oriented language. When you want it to behave like a procedure oriented language, you can make it behave like that. If you want to make it to behave like a object oriented language, you can make it behave like that. But personally, if you ask me, okay, personally, if you ask me, I don't feel it does the best job of a procedure oriented language, or it does the best job of a object oriented language, whereas it can be used intermediately. Okay, whenever you want a small portion of procedure oriented language, you can use it for a quicker use, or if you want to quickly use it for any object related details, you want to solve a problem quickly related to objects, then you can use Python. But it cannot replace C for system programming, nor it can replace Java completely for application programming, but you can use it in intermediate level. Okay, so that you can link with both and then work with that. You're getting what I'm trying to tell you? Okay, so for smaller applications, yes, Python is very frequently used and a very good language to use. Got it? Okay, so having said that, I just want to make one thing clear: C cannot be replaced by Python, or Java cannot be replaced by Python, nor whatever C can do, everything can be done. I mean, whatever C can do, yes, most of the thing could be done by Python. Whatever Java you can achieve using Java, most of the thing can be achieved using Python. But yes, it cannot replace any other language. And you cannot say C is best, Java is best, or Python is best. Each and every language has its own pros and cons. Once you start learning the subject very well, you will be able to appreciate those. Is that okay? Is that okay? Okay, just say okay. Bhavana is asking, why isn't Java procedural? Why can't it be both? Bhavana, it's not the right time for me to talk about Java for now, so don't mind, because your asked, I'll tell you, it cannot be procedural because you see, okay, listen to me carefully. You can make Java behave like a procedure oriented by forcing it, because Bhavana is asking, okay, but Java is not designed for that. Java is only used for object oriented object oriented problem solving. Okay, so I cannot go in more detail into it for now, because it will take a lot of time, and you will have to learn Java completely to understand that. Okay, so for now I'm just telling you that Java is basically used for, okay, if you want to solve any object oriented related problems, okay, then such kind of problems can be done using Java, but not for procedure oriented problems. Is that okay? For now I would like to just stop it here, and I don't want to go further because it might delay the today's session. Is that okay, Bhavana? Fine? Okay, ma. Thank you. So shall I go to the next session? Did you understand this? Any doubt here before proceeding further? Do you have any doubt?
No.
No? Okay, I'm going ahead. See guys, if you, I'm not talking about any other languages for now, just even C++ object oriented, why Java? Oh, I will not take this up question for now. It is something out of the topic. Okay, any doubts in the current session? Okay, just because Yogesh asked, I'll quickly answer of this question. Okay, guys, understand anything unrelated, please don't ask. So now let me, because Yogesh asked this, I'll tell you. Even C++ is object oriented. Why Java? I didn't understand this question first of all, but because with my basic understanding, I'll tell you. C++, okay, is not purely object oriented language. Okay, because it's what do you say? It supports procedure oriented. Okay, and it has an extension of C which is object oriented. Okay, whereas whatever you can do in C can be done in C++. Or let me tell you, any C program can be compiled using C++ compiler, guaranteed, pakka. Any valid C program can be compiled using a valid C++ compiler. I'll repeat once again, any C program can be compiled using C++ compiler. This itself says that, okay, you have all possible possibility to make a object oriented program into procedure oriented program, whereas your Java will not allow you to do that. Java says, boss, you cannot do anything related to procedure, or you cannot solve a problem using procedure oriented approach. My Java is all about classes, it's all about objects. If you want to solve a problem, you have to basically make use of objects. Okay, so what is object in programming language? Very good question. So don't worry, I will take a separate session on object oriented programming before starting. It's just an introduction. So because you have asked, let me tell you, object is Subhash, object is Lakshmi, object is Raghavi. So sorry, it's a reverse. Subhash is an object, Yogesh is an object, Pavan is an object, Valmik is an object. We are all objects of the type human beings. Okay, it means object will represent a real-time entity. Any object that, you know, if you can close your eyes and if you can think of an say for example, if I say clothes, if you close your eyes, do you get any picture of a specific cloth when you say clothes? Just say yes or no. When you close your eyes and when I say clothes, will you get any? Do you get really, when I say clothes, which cloth will you get come to your mind? Which clothes? Which clothes will you get? Do you clothes? No clothes. When you close your eyes, you don't get any clothes in your mind. You will get random shirt, t-shirt, many clothes are there. Yes or no? So if you want to call anything as an object, when you close your eyes and if you get a definite picture, that is an object. Say for example, if I ask you to close your eyes and then tell you Subhash, who comes to your mind? Who comes to your mind? Subhash only comes, no? So it means Subhash is an object. If I ask you to close your eyes and say t-shirt, okay, only t-shirt will come, no skirt will not come, right? So t-shirt is basically an object. So object is a real-time entity. So more about objects I'll discuss later. I've not even got into the Python language, so let us not discuss object for now. Okay, for now just understand that Python supports both procedure oriented language as well as procedure oriented paradigm as well as object oriented paradigm. Did you get that? How, one, what and all, we'll see later. Is that okay? Yeah. So for now, because I'll be repeating it later session, so now one thing you have to understand is that in Python, no, each and everything is considered as objects. Each and everything is considered as objects. Is that okay? Just understand this statement for now. Later we'll discuss that in detail. Okay. Is that okay? Yeah. Is that okay? Right. Now I'll come back to the PDF again once again. Now. Okay, I've given the same code over here. You can just check out. Okay, it's see how easy it is in Python to write the code. Okay, and this is what I love about Python. Okay, it's so easy to write code over here, right? Yeah. Now, okay, now let us talk about what are the main features of Python. I will talk about it one by one. Okay, so simplicity. I wanted to discuss all these things with you guys. Okay, to appreciate Python. The first thing is, okay, what I like more about Python is its simplicity. Okay, because I showed you just now, you can see the simple way of doing it. Okay, here if suppose you want to basically write a program in Java, you're supposed to have a class, then a main method, and then you'll have to write the code and all that. Even in C you'll have to write a function, but it's so simple to write in Python here. Okay, it's so simple. First time when I was going through this Python code, right, some few years back, when I was going through this, I was mind blown by seeing the simplicity. It put out all the details which are not needed. Because of this simplicity, people have started adopting Python more and more now. Okay, but yes, it cannot replace others. For a specific, before they were using Perl for scripting, especially while testing for automation testing and all, they were basically using Perl and all that. Now they are actually coming back to Python because of its simplicity. Okay, it's more of a scripting language. It's more than a scripting language. Okay, now coming to the second one, which most of the students love, is because it is very easy to learn. Today, most of the calls that I get from the internet, okay, is not for C or Java and all that. Rather, it is for Python. And when I ask them, why do you want to learn Python? They say, sir, I heard that it is very easy to learn, and that is why I wanted to learn Python. Of course, yes, guys, it's very easy to learn basically Python. Earlier when we say start with programming, people used to say start with C language because it is easy to learn. Okay, but today it has been changed. They say if you want to learn coding, just if you want to see how coding tastes, you want to taste the waters of coding, right? They start with Python, and I would say yes, that is true. Python is very easy to learn compared to any programming languages over here that I have seen. I've been written books on C. I've written, a Pearson. I am a Pearson author, C++ author. Okay, and I have, I've been into Java for a long time, and and I've been into Python also. But comparatively from all these, when I see the easiest thing, easiest language to learn is basically Python. Okay, that is the second important feature, right? Third one is open source. Anyone knows what do you mean by open source? Open source is you don't need to actually pay money to use it. Okay, so now you say Windows, do you want, yeah, it's free basically, correct? So do you know, is Windows an open source platform? Is Windows open source? Is Windows, Unix is not open source. Unix is not, Sangram is telling Unix is open source. Unix is not open source. Unix is, you'll have to pay the money for license. Okay, so yeah, so basically Linux is open source. I think probably Sangram Biradar was about to say Linux. Okay, Linux is open source, right? But Unix is not open source. Linux is a Unix-like operating system, right? So, yeah, Ubuntu is nothing but a flavor of Linux. So Linux is open source. Unix is not open source. Windows is not open source. Okay, but here, Python language is basically open source. You are free to download from the internet. You can install it and it works. Whereas Windows don't work. But I know now many students, when I told this, in one of the sessions, people said, sir, Windows is free. I got it installed it for free. Students told me this, sir, Windows is free. Why are you lying? I said, boss, Windows is not free. You are using pirated version, a dirty fellow. You're getting it. That dirty fellow was using pirated version and he thought it is free. Okay, that is a pirated version. Basically, you don't get Windows for free. If you want to use Windows, you have to actually buy it. It costs you some 6,000, 7,000 rupees or something per license. Okay, no, but most of them in India, are using actually the pirated version. So using pirated version doesn't mean it is free. Okay, if suppose you want to watch a movie, someone, there was I was watching a movie. Okay, and the fellow was saying the movie is free. I said the movie is not free. The pirated version of the movie is free. Actual movie you have to buy ticket and watch it on the theater. You're getting it, right? So in that case, open source is nothing but you download, but open source is nothing but free. You are free to download. No need to ask anyone. Download it and install it, and you're free to distribute it also. That is basically called as open source. Okay, next, coming to Python is a high-level language. You know the fact that there are two kinds of language existing over here, right now. So what are they? One is your object-oriented language. The other one is your your high-level language. The other one is your low-level language. What is high-level language? That, this is high-level language that I wrote just now, right? This is high-level language. Everything is looking like English, no? Yes or no? Just say yes, no. Is it looking like English? Is everything looking like English? Yes or no? Yeah. So who will understand this English? Who will understand English? Who will understand English? We human beings will understand English. Yes or no? Correct. Now, if I call Yogesh is there, instead of Yogesh, I call, if suppose Yogesh's name was 011011011. Okay, and then Valmik's name was 110110110. Okay, and somebody else will have some other combination of zeros and ones. Will we be able to call them like that? Is it possible? Is possible, not possible? Tell me. It is not possible, right? For that reason, we have this English language. So this high-level language is for human beings to write code. It is easy for us to understand, read, and relate to, correct? Whereas if you go and tell the CPU that, boss, this is my program, it will not understand. The only thing that your CPU or the computer will understand is zeros and ones, the binary language. That is called as binary language or machine level language. Okay, so in that case, Python is a high level language and not a low level language. You call it as low level language or binary language for zeros and ones, and these English like looking language are basically called as high level language. Is that okay? And there is something called as assembly language also. If you're writing code using your 8086, 8085 microprocessor, microcontroller and that, you will be writing instructions like add, mul, sub, and push, pop, and all those instructions would be there. They're basically called as your assembly level instructions. Even those assembly level language has to be converted into binary language before the CPU or the microcontroller or microprocessor executes it. Is that okay? Did you get what I'm trying to tell you? So in that case, Python is basically a high level language. Okay. Next comes very important, which I love the most when it comes to Python, is dynamically typed. Can anyone tell me what do you mean by dynamically typed? Anyone can unmute and talk to me actually, if you really know. What do you mean by dynamically typed? Anyone? What do you mean by dynamically typed? Dynamically typed. Anyone? Anyone? At least someone, any idea? Sudhir, any idea? What do you mean by dynamically typed?
Since it's interpreter driven, step by step, I mean, each step you can just do on the fly.
No, Sudhir, not that. It is, you see, the name itself says dynamically typed. No, Danya, no. Dynamically typed. The name itself says is dynamically typed. If you type partial, rest it will give. Hey, Lakshmi, I will give 1 now. If it will not give, I will give 1 to you now. If you wrong answer. Which Lakshmi is giving that answer? Wrong answer. Line by line correction. No, predefined. No. It can move anywhere. What all answers here? Yeah. So there any idea? You can just, you want, you can check the code. You can check the code.
Sir, it will return the value and the type.
Who is
sir.
answering this? Lakshmi Krishnappa?
Int 6 means
No,
it
who is
will.
answering this? Who is answering this?
Geeta, sir.
Geeta, yeah, Geeta, tell me.
If we give int 6 means it will return the value 6 as well as the integer type, sir. It is.
Come again, Geeta, come again once again.
If you are giving int type, means it will give the value as well as the type of the data type.
Okay, okay, you're somewhere near, you got it, but still let me explain you that. What do you mean by dynamically typed? Okay, now listen to me. Okay, Geeta, anyways, you are somewhere near, but let me clear it to you. Okay, now listen to me. Here in C language, Sudhir, just observe. Okay, others who gave wrong answers, just listen. Okay, yeah. In main function, right? If suppose, sorry, in C language, if suppose I want to add 2 numbers, that is A and B, okay, we have to give values to it. Agree, disagree? Agree, disagree? Just put in the chat box. Agree, disagree? You have to give 2 values to it, right? If suppose I have to give 2 values to this, that is, if I want to give the value of 5 into A and 6 into A, the first thing that I need to do is I have to create memory to these. Again, yes or no? I have to allocate memory for A, B, and some. Agree, disagree? Yes, no, right? I have to allocate memory. So I have to tell how much of memory has to be allocated for this, variables A, B, and some. See here, I've given this data type. It is the programmer's duty to give the data type and tell the program that how much of memory has to be allocated. I have to tell this to the compiler. Okay, in C language, it is mandatory. Similarly, if you see in Java also, right, see here, okay, when I say A, B, and if suppose I want to add 2 values, that is A and B, then what is it I have to do? I have to give values to it. If I want to give values to it, I need memory location for it. Yes or no? I have to store this 5 somewhere. I have to store 6 somewhere. Correct? Now, if I want to store it somewhere, where is that somewhere? It is the memory. It is nothing but the RAM. Correct? If I want to store it in the RAM, I have to tell the Java compiler, boss, how much of memory has to be allocated. How much of memory has to be allocated is told by the data type again. So here you can see I have put the into data type. Did you see this? Before using the variables, I have told the compilers, boss, give me 2 to 3 variables, okay, of type integer. Variable is nothing but what? A space in the memory location to store some values. Correct? But now, if you see this in Python, have I declared it? Have I defined it? Have I given any data type over here? Have I given any data type? Yes or no? Okay, not required. This is called as dynamically typed. Dynamic means during runtime. Okay, during runtime, okay, the Python, that is your Python virtual machine, knows what kind of variable this is. Okay, by putting 5 into A, automatically the Python will know that A is of type integer and B would also be of type integer, and it knows how to handle the memory memory appropriately. Like in C and Java, you need not tell, boss, give me 4 bytes, give me 5 bytes, give me 10 bytes, give me 8 bytes. You need not tell Python. You just say, I want to store 5 into A, and the Python's virtual machine would actually take care of the allocation of these memory. Got this or not? Yes, no. This is called as dynamically typed. Okay. Whereas here it is statically typed. You got to tell it. You got to tell what is how much or what is it or how much of memory has to be allocated. Whereas here you did not tell it. Automatically that is being taken because A is an object, B is an object. More about objects I'll tell later. For now you have to understand A is an object, B is an object. I mean, for now, for our discussion, we'll think A is a variable, B is a variable. These variables are internally treated as objects. What is object? We'll see later. Is that okay? Did you get that? Right? Don't worry if you don't understand objects for now. Absolutely don't worry. We'll see that later. Is that okay? Is that okay? Did you get this? Just say yes. Yeah. Okay. Now we'll go to the next point. We'll go to the next point. Okay. Platform independent. Okay. What do you mean by platform independent? Platform independent is that, okay, you run it, you compile a Python program, you get the binary, okay, take the binary and you can run it on any computer which has a combination of any OS and any processor. Any computer you take, okay, you might have Windows machine, you might have Linux machine, you might have a Mac OS machine, okay, 3 different computers are there. Take the Python program that you have compiled, you can run it on any machine without any help of any other tool. You can run it on any machine, and that is basically called as platform independent. Platform, in this example, when I say here platform is nothing but a combination of your operating system and a processor. Oh, by the way, do you all know what is an operating system, right? Do you all know what you mean by an operating system? Yes, no. You guys know, you don't know. If you don't know, tell me, I'll explain you. It's okay. If you don't know what is an operating system, tell me, I'll explain you. Absolutely okay. So that it's okay. Don't feel what will others think. Absolutely okay. You can be a fool in front of 40 people rather being a fool in the exam. Bhavana, you don't know? Yeah, no problem. I'll explain you. Listen to me. What is an operating system very carefully. Can I remove this from the screen? Can I remove this from the screen? Have you taken a picture of it? Just say took, and so that I can explain you what is an operating system. Have you taken so that I can explain it to you? Yeah. Now, can you just say took? If you've taken a picture of this, just say took, so that I would be explaining operating system. Okay, to all. Now listen. I'm removing this. Okay, take a picture of this. Yeah. Okay. Now, listen to me carefully. Okay, I will give you an analogy for this. Right. Right. Now, if suppose, right, I'll take somebody's example. Okay, Yogesh, can I take your example for now, Yogesh? Yeah. Now assume Yogesh wants to go and pray to God. Yogesh wants to go and pray to God. Okay. So Yogesh, can you please unmute yourself, Yogesh? Can you just unmute yourself, Yogesh, if possible? Yeah.
Hi.
Yeah. Yogesh, can you speak to the God directly?
No, sir.
No, right? Okay, now let me make you an old man here. Okay, he is Yogesh and he has a son or a daughter. Okay, he has a son or a daughter. Okay, he has a son or a daughter, assume, and they're all old fellows and they're unable to, they have not got married yet and they are not getting a right match. Okay, whether this fellow, his son is either not getting a right girl or the girl is not getting a right man for marrying, right? So what will Yogesh do? This fellow is called as Yogesh. Okay, he is Yogesh, right? What will Yogesh do? Now Yogesh will go and he wants to go and ask God. He wants to go and pray for God. Okay, he wants to pray God that please give a good wife to my son or give a good husband to my daughter. Okay, no matrimony is working, nothing is working. Finally he has to go to the God itself, right? Now tell me, now can God understand Yogesh's language? Can God understand Yogesh's language? Okay, God is here. Now God is here. Okay, this is God. Okay, this is God. Can God understand Yogesh's language? Yes or no? Just answer no. Yes or no? Can God? No. Okay. What is God's language? First of all, you answer that. What is God's language? This is Yogesh. What is God's language? Assume this is Hindu God. Okay. Assume this is Hindu God. For this example, yeah, God's language is Sanskrit. Who answered that? Malakar answered. Very good, Malakar. Okay, God will speak Sanskrit. Yes or no? In Hindu God, I'm talking about Hindu God. Okay, for now, right. So God's language is Sanskrit. Now, Yogesh, do you know Sanskrit?
No, sir.
No. Then how can you talk to God? How can you talk to God? Is it possible to talk to God? Yeah, exactly. You cannot talk to God directly. Rather, you will make use of a person over here in between. Correct? No. Right? Who is this fellow? This fellow is the priest. I'll call him the priest. Pujari. Whoever it is, priest. Correct? So what Yogesh will do? Yogesh will take flowers and fruits and all and offer it to the priest and say, look priest, look Pujari, go and talk to the God in Sanskrit and ask him to give a good wife to my son or a husband to my daughter. So priest will say no problem, and he will say swaha, 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 swaha. He'll say to the God, right? Now God will say tathast, okay? And the priest will go and give the prasada to Yogesh. Yes or no? Now the question comes here is that why did Yogesh go and talk to the priest, and why can't Yogesh go and directly talk to the God? Is it possible? Impossible. He went through the priest, correct? So my question is, can Yogesh go? This is for Bhavana, okay? Bhavana, just listen to me, okay? So can't Yogesh talk to the God directly? Yogesh, unmute and answer me. Answer this question.
No, sir.
Why you can't? You can learn Sanskrit and talk to the God, no?
Even
Possible?
that requires a medium, right, sir?
It requires a
Medium, like
wait, medium. If you know, because you don't know the Sanskrit, that is why you made use of priest. If you know Sanskrit, why you make use of priest? You can directly talk to God, no?
to learn Sanskrit also we should learn from priest or something.
Assume you have a medium. You have a nice teacher like Subhash Kayu who will teach you Sanskrit. Assume. Asmakam shalam bahihi kridanganam vartate is one of the Sanskrit sentences. Okay, so which I learned in my college days and all that, right? So you can basically learn Sanskrit. No, possible? Not possible? Tell me.
Possible.
Possible, correct? But after Lakshmi is telling it requires months to know. It's not months. You require minimum 5 years to learn Sanskrit, to speak Sanskrit at least. And and then if you want to speak like the priest, say you cannot talk to the God as if you're talking to your friend, because God has to hear everybody's prayers. Yes or no? Correct? Millions of people are talking to God. If you say God, I want and all that slowly, God will not understand. You have to speak like why do you think this priest talks to the God so speed? So the fastness that priest has, because he has to pray on behalf of so many people, no? And if you want to get that pace, then you will have to spend extra 10 years. Yes or no? Total 15 years. Now can your daughter or son wait for 15 years to get married? Can they wait? They cannot wait. So what you will do, basically, you will make use of the priest, and priest will do the job. Correct? No. Now, Subhash, why are you giving this analogy? Is I want to explain Bhavana, what is operating system. Okay. So at the bottom, you have someone called as the hardware. He is the hardware. Hardware is is nothing but RAM, your CPU, your CPU, and you have your hard disk and all those. These are your hardware. Okay. Now you have your application, right? On your smartphone has applications. No, these are all apps, right? And if the apps has to store some database, or it has to store some data on the database. Where is database? It is there on the hard disk, correct? Now, can it directly store? Can it directly store? No, right? Instead, what will it do? It will actually make use of a person called as the operating system. Bhavana, got it? So operating system is nothing but an intermediate person who will convey the information that your app gives, so that it can talk to the hardware, and the hardware will give the resultant that will be given back to the app. Okay. Now, if on your phone, if you look for contacts, okay, on your phone, you actually click on contacts. Okay, the moment you click on contacts, automatically all the contacts will appear. But where are those contacts present? Those contacts are present on the hard disk of your on hard disk on your mobile phone. Yes or no? Right? Now, do you think the contact app is going and fetching from the hardware directly? No, it is talking to your iOS or your Android, Linux, right? It goes to the operating system. It will ask for the operating system. Operating system will go and talk to the hardware. Then the hardware will give it to the operating system, and the operating system will give it back to the contacts application. Correct? So my question is, can't this application directly talk to the hardware? Like how I asked Yogesh, can't he directly talk to the God? Okay. Similarly, can't this application directly talk to the hardware? Possible. When is it possible? So the entire code what is written in OS, no, that has to be written in the application. You understanding it? So how long will it take? Is it necessary? Now imagine Yogesh has to spend 15 years full time to learn Sanskrit so that he can go and talk to God. He has better work to do. No, he is a software engineer in some company. Assume so, leaving his job, he cannot do this. Similarly, this application is the duty of application is to manage contacts, not to go and talk to hardware. So there is a person called as operating system to do that. So what you can do is you can talk to the operating system, and the operating system will do the job for you. When there is some expert to do that, why do you want to actually do that job? Agree, disagree? Okay, so operating system is nothing but a system software which is used to connect between your application and the hardware. Bhavna, did you get this? Bhavna, did you get this? Bhavna,
Yes,
this
sir.
was for you. Did you get this? This is basically an operating system. Okay, so why did we come to this topic of operating system? Yeah, I was talking about platform independent, correct? So what do you mean by platform independent? Is nothing but, okay, now you might have any computer you take. Any computer is basically a combination of this. Okay, this might be a Windows would be installed and the processor would be Intel. Okay, or you might have a Windows, or the processor could be Spark is another kind of processor. Okay, or you might have another machine on which Linux would be installed, or what is that, your MIPS is another processor. Okay, you might have this combination. Any computer would be a combination of an OS plus an processor, correct? No, now you can write Python. If you have written Python code over here, okay, you have compiled it and you have got one binary format. I'll talk about compilation in some time. You have got the binary format. Take this binary, you put it over here, it will work. Take the same binary, put it over here, it works. That is what is called as platform independent. You need not write Python code once again over here, compile it once again, and then generate the binary. You need not write the Python code over here, compile it and write the binary. If you compile it on one machine, take that binary and put it over here, it will work. Put it over here, it works. The reason is that you have installed PVM here, Python software here, installed specific PVM here, install PVM. I'll talk about this later in some time. Okay, for now, did you understand what do you mean by platform independent? Platform independent is that the binary of Python will work on any platforms. This is called as a platform. This is called as a platform. This is basically called as a platform. Did you get that or not? Did you understand this? Just say understood in the chat box. If you understood, say understood. Okay, yeah, having said that, yeah, what do you mean by portable? What do you mean by portable? You call anything as portable if that thing gives the desired output, the same desired output on any machine across the world, including the precision. Okay, so if your one computer is giving one output, okay, you take the code to any other computer anywhere in the world, it should give the same output. Okay, so Python is portable, it will give the same result everywhere. So platform independent and portable almost means the same thing. Is that okay? Right, next feature is Sangram is raising his hand. Sangram, give me some time, I would explain you at the end. Is that okay, Sangram brother? Is that okay? Or you can unmute and you can ask me a question. You can unmute and ask me a question. Sangram, you can unmute and you can ask me a question. Sangram, you want to ask me a question now? I'm waiting. I can proceed later. I can wait for you. Sangram, you want to ask me a question? Yes, no? Shall I proceed? Okay. So, okay. Right. Okay. Now, next, as I told you, so Python is both procedure oriented and object oriented. So we'll discuss this over a period of time once I start the coding from tomorrow. Okay. And one more thing which I love about Python is it has a huge set of libraries. Okay. Libraries in the sense for doing mathematical calculations, you have a separate set of code. You need not write code from scratch. Somebody has already developed that code and given to you. You can just make use of it. Okay, and for say if you want to do this statistical analysis, okay, there's again one more set of library. You can only use that and do. For graphics, you have another set of library. Okay, somebody has coded using Python. You can only install that and integrate it with your machine, and then you can start using it. So that is what I like. Might be one of the reasons I always wondered why is that there is so much of libraries. Might be Python is very easy to use and people have started learning it and they've started implementing libraries and all that. Okay, you'll be able to do it. So Subhash is asking, can we make a library? Of course, if you're interested, go ahead and make your own library. You can use it. Okay, libraries are nothing but a group of functions. That's all. Okay, yeah. Now, second one is, the last second one is, it is basically also acting as a scripting language. Okay.
Subhash.
Yeah. Who is that?
Sorry, Sandeep here.
Yes, Sandeep.
This is also written in Python? Or?
Yes, it is. Sometimes most of the times it is in Python. Okay. Sometimes it is actually a combination of some other language along with Python. Say, for example, C. Okay, you can have C as a native, and then you can basically on top of it you can use your Python and then do it.
Okay.
Okay. Right? Yeah. But most of the time it is. Now, if you see this Python, right, Sandeep, you're hearing me?
Yeah. Yes.
Python itself is written in C language.
Yeah.
The Python, the entire Python, right, is coded in C language.
Okay.
So let me come to this place here, the flavors of Python. I'll talk about the different Pythons that are available on the planet today. Okay, give me some time, I'll come to this. There you'll understand what I'll talk about this later over here. Flavors of Python. Okay, yeah. Is that okay, Sandeep?
Sure.
Yeah, okay. Okay, and then you have something called as scripting. Okay, so Python can also be used as a scripting language. So basically, what does a script do? Script will interconnect two technologies. Okay, say for example, I can write a script, say like a JavaScript. I can use a JavaScript, okay, to read the HTML thing, okay, and then give it to the backend application, like any like servlets or any Hibernate, or I can give it to them so that I can act as an interconnection between two different technologies, and Python can be used for that also, which has been using. Okay, I'll tell you about the flavors, there you'll get to know, right? So it can also be used as a scripting language. So check out, it has almost so many things. It can act like a procedure-oriented language, it can act like an object-oriented language, it can act as a scripting language. Okay, but yeah, I cannot, but if you ask me personally, I cannot call it as a full-fledged object-oriented language or a full-fledged procedure-oriented language or a full-fledged scripting language, but basically it acts like a supporting role for everything. And might be that is one of the reasons why I think Python is growing very vastly. Is that okay? Okay? Everyone, is that okay? Just comment okay. Okay, yeah. Then you have something called as database connectivity. Or I think everybody, you would know about database. Database is nothing but your MySQL or PLSQL. You have your database like that. Okay, so you have lot of APIs. Okay, just if you want to save any data in the form of rows and tables and all that on the database, you have a lot of APIs given in Python, where you directly call the APIs, and it will actually store all the data onto your database. So such API is also inbuilt in Python. Okay, what else you basically need in a language like this? Is that okay? So these are the main features. Okay, so Geeta is asking, sir, why not programming language? I didn't understand your question, Geeta. Why not programming language? I did not understand your question. Okay, I'll do one thing. I'll finish off, and later I'll have your session. At the end, we'll have session only for questions. Is that okay? So that you can unmute and you can talk to me. So better I will be able to clarify there. Okay. Yeah. So then we have database connectivity, where you have a lot of Python APIs, which will be having a discussion on this at the end of this course. Okay. And the end of this course, we'll have even this database and how to connect database and all that. Is that okay? Till here, okay? Till here, okay? Till here, okay? Yeah. Okay, cool. Now, let me give you a story to explain how does Python program execute. Okay, and then I would come back to this. So let me give you a story. You want to take a picture of this? Anyone? You want to take a picture of this? You want to take a picture of this? You can take. You want to take took? If you're taken, just say took. Okay, right. So I'll just remove this from here. Okay, and set this now. Now, before explaining how Python compiler works, okay, now let me explain how C compiler works first of all. Okay, if you have idea about C, you can enjoy it or you can see it. Others, just observe and you will at least see how it works enough. Okay, so but I think for people who know C language, it would give you an idea. If you don't have an idea of C language, absolutely okay, no problem, right? Now listen to me. Let me take 3 people over here. Okay, so let me take Sushma, LD. Okay, so let me take Sushma. Okay, and then Sushma is here. Okay, then let me take Sudhir for now, another example, Sudhir. Okay, right, and then let me take Shweta. Okay, Shweta. Okay, Shweta. Now assume all these are best friends, all these people are very good friends. Okay, so Sushma, this is Sushma. Okay, and this is Sudhir, and this is Shweta again. Okay, now Sushma has a computer. Okay, she has a keyboard, and and she has a CPU. Okay, so what is this combination? She has a platform. What is the combination that she has? She has a Windows machine with Intel installed over here. It is Intel. Okay, and Sudhir has a computer. Okay, which is basically he has a combination of Windows and plus a Spark operating system. Okay, Spark, or you can anything else for that matter. Okay, and Shweta also has a computer. Okay, and with a platform which is nothing but Linux. She has installed Linux, and she also has a a MIPS processor. Okay, MIPS processor. Right, now what happens is Sushma has written a code, C code. Sushma has written a C code. Okay, it is, I will save it as 1.c. Okay, and then she has written main function inside this, all main function, everything is here, right? And after that, what happens is that she will compile it using a compiler. Okay, she will compile it. Yesterday I told you what is compiling, right? Compiling a high level language into low level language, and this compiler will generate a binary format, executable. Okay, which is completely in zeros and ones. 0 1 1 0 1 0 0 0 1 0 and all those things. It is a binary format, and then she will give it, and this will be executed by her CPU, which is nothing but Windows and Intel. Okay, it is possible. Yes or no? Yes, no, just say okay. If you're okay, just say okay, right? She will execute it. Okay, now Sudhir being a very close friend of Sushma, okay, Sudhir will ask Sushma, Sushma, can you please give me your binary? I don't want to compile it and all that. Can you please give me this binary so that I will execute? Okay, so Sushma being a very good friend of Sudhir, Sushma says, no problem, Sudhir, please take it. Okay, and now Sushma tries to take this binary. Instead of compiling, she will directly take this executable and try to execute on this machine. Okay, will it work? Will it work? It will not work. You can put in the chat box. Will it work? It will not work. Okay, Shweta is telling it will not work. Why it won't work? Because Sushma has compiled it. Is that the reason? It won't work. Why is it not working? Why won't it work? It won't work because Sushma compiler might differ. Yes, this compiler, okay, you know what happened when Sushma compiled it? She used a compiler that was compatible with Windows and Intel, and when she compiled this source file, what happened was that she generated a machine instructions, and this machine instructions contained assembly instructions for Windows and Intel, Windows plus Intel. This is the combination that it had. This was the combination, right? So when this binary file was taken into this machine, which is that Sudhir had a combination of Windows and Spark, it did not work here. It won't work. Okay, why it won't work? Because the assembly instructions of Windows and Intel combination is totally different from the assembly instructions that the Spark supports. So this file will not work over here. Agree, disagree with this? Agree, disagree? Okay, yes, no. Right, so what Sudhir has to do now this won't work. So what Sudhir has, similarly, okay, similarly what Shweta will do, Shweta also will ask for this binary. Will it work over here? Will it work in this case? It won't work because the assembly instructions generated over here is totally different from Linux. Okay, Linux and MIPS combination. So what each one has to do, they have to compile once again for their own machine. Okay, so they can either write the C code from first, or they can only borrow this from here. They can borrow this C code. Okay, the same C code they can borrow, but they cannot borrow the executable, and they have to use a separate compiler that will generate assembly instructions for 0110 and all those things, assembly instructions which will work for a combination of Windows plus Spark processors. Okay, and then this will be executed here. Similarly, if Shweta has to run the same program, she can either borrow it, or she can basically write her own program 1.c. Okay, then use another compiler. Okay, then she has to generate. She has to use a compiler that will generate the binary instruction related to what? Linux and MIPS combination, Linux plus MIPS combination, and then she can run it on this machine. Okay, you got what I'm saying? Okay, so the problem with C language is that, okay, the source code is not platform independent. It is not platform independent, rather it is platform dependent. If you cannot take the binary of that was prepared for one machine, the binary that was created on one machine cannot be run on another machine. Okay, that is why C programs are platform dependent and not platform independent. Did you got that? So basically C programs are platform dependent. Got it or not? Got it or not? Venkatesh, did you get Venkatesh? Venkatesh, did you understand? Yes, no. Okay.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, awesome. Now, but whereas for Python, now you see for Python, you know what happens? Can I remove this from here? Can I remove this from here? You're okay? You want to take a picture of this? You can take a picture of this and say took. You can take a picture of this and say took. Did you take it? Yeah. Now the same thing. Okay, I'll just erase it now. I'll just quickly erase it. Okay. Everything remains same. Everything remains same. Okay. Let me erase it completely. Okay. Now let us take the same example of Sushma, Sudhir, and Shweta. Okay. Sushma will write the code. Sushma will write the code in which language? She will write in Python. Okay. She will write it in Python. Okay. Every Python program has to be saved in a file with .py extension. Okay. She will write A is equal to 10, B is equal to 20, and sum is equal to A plus B and all that. Right. She will write this code, and she will now compile this code with a Python compiler. Python compiler. And you know what happens? This Python compiler will basically give you some output. I'll talk about that output later in detail. Okay, it will generate a code which is basically called as a bytecode. It is basically called as a bytecode. Okay, and bytecode, say it says LD, constant, and all those binary, all those bytecode. I'll talk about bytecode in some time. Okay, now this bytecode can be now when this bytecode is taken and executed on this machine, it works. Okay, similarly, when this bytecode is requested by Sudhir says, Sushma, can you please give me the bytecode? Okay, now this bytecode can also be executed on this machine. This bytecode can also be executed on Linux machine. It works. Okay, compile it once, but you can run it anywhere. This is basically called as platform independent, which I was talking about a bit earlier. Okay, so the bytecode that is generated for Python, right, could be run anywhere. Okay, on any combination of any machine. Okay, yeah. So Subhash is asking me, then what is interpreter, which you said yesterday? Give me some time, Subhash. I'll clarify this. Okay, no, you got this? You got this? Yes, no. Okay, I want you to ask me some question here. I want you to ask me some question over here. Okay, the question is, Subhash, how will this bytecode over here work here? How will the bytecode of this one will work here? It was actually compiled using one compiler over here and it generated a bytecode. Yes or no? Yes or no? Yeah, it is platform independent. That is why it is platform. But how does it actually work? It works because okay, you remember initially what I told when I started the session today. Okay, I told you that before you started to learn Python, you have to install your Python software. Didn't I tell you that? Install the Python software. So what you were basically installing was your Python virtual machine, which contained an interpreter inside it. Okay, so what your Python software contained was basically a PVM with an interpreter inside it. Okay, so what Sushma did here was she downloaded one PVM for her machine. Okay, and Sudhir downloaded the PVM for his machine, and Shweta downloaded a PVM for her machine. Okay, this PVM along with it contained an interpreter. It contained an interpreter. This Sudhir's PVM also contained an interpreter. Okay, and one second, why are people going out every now and then? Okay, and Sushma's PVM also contained an interpreter. Okay, so when you're downloading your software, no, when you're downloading your Python software, okay, 1 second, I'll just admit few people are gone out. 1 second. Okay, so when you're actually downloading your PVM, it will ask you, boss, what is your platform? Is it Windows? Is it Linux? Is it, you know, Intel, or what is it? It asks you that, you know, asks that question to you, and based on that, you basically put your software over here. That is, you install your software. Okay, the software is installed in such a way that, okay, this PVM will understand what is your system configuration, and then when the bytecode which comes in, this bytecode, I'll explain this in detail once again. Okay, so listen to me. When this bytecode comes here, right, it will first see what is my combination, and then this interpreter that is there inside this PVM, this will convert this bytecode into the machine code related to that particular configuration of your system, and then give you your desired output. Did you understand this? Did you understand this? You want an analogy? Do you want an analogy? Do you want an analogy? If you want an analogy, just say analogy so that I can give you an analogy. If you want an analogy, I'll give you an analogy. Okay, now listen to me carefully. Okay, can you take a picture of this so that I can remove this from here? Can you take a picture of this? Can you take a picture of this quickly? You want to take a picture of this? Take a picture of this quickly. Took a picture? Yeah, cool. I'm removing it now. Listen to me. Okay, now listen. There is a school. Okay, there is a school. Okay, say this is, okay, let me take 3 schools. Let me take 3 schools over here. Okay, 3 South Indian schools. This is Tamil Nadu school, government school. Tamil Nadu government school. This is Karnataka government school. Karnataka government school, and this is Kerala government school. 3 schools are there. Okay, three government schools are there. Pupils are here. Pupils are here. Okay, pupils are here. Okay, pupils are here. Okay, pupils are here. Right now, there is a professor who is actually coming from the United States of America to deliver a lecture. Who is coming? A professor. A professor is coming from the United States of America to deliver a lecture. Okay, like this. And what does that fellow speak? United States of America. Do you think he'll speak Tamil, or do you think he'll speak Kannada, or he'll speak Malayalam? Nothing. He'll only speak what? English. And very important lecture. Only important lecture. He will speak what? English. English only. Okay. What will he speak? He'll speak only English. Okay. What will he speak? He will only speak English, right? Now, but do you think these fellows will know English? These fellows know English? Assume they don't know English, but today most of them know English, but assume that these fellows don't know English, right? So what is that they have to do now? Okay, Tamil Nadu government will hire one teacher, okay, who will basically listen to this English. English is a common language, no? He's speaking English only, no? English. So take this common language, and Tamil Nadu government recruited this teacher from where? From Tamil Nadu. So that this Tamil Nadu government recruited a teacher to understand English and convert that into what? Tamil. Yes or no? Right now, Karnataka government, Karnataka spelling is wrong. Okay, Karnataka government, okay, hired one teacher. Okay, recruited one teacher so that this English could be taken and converted this into what? Kannada. Correct. Similarly, okay, Kerala government, okay, recruited one teacher to actually convert this English language into what? Which language? Into Malayalam. Right? No, but what is that they have to understand in common? What is it they have to understand in common? They have to understand English in common. Correct. English is same in Tamil Nadu. English is same in Karnataka. English is same in Kerala. Agreed or not? Agree? Disagree with this?
Yes.
Agree or disagree?
Yes.
Agree, right? It is same, right? So when I convert this scenario into Python, English is nothing but your bytecode, which is universal code. Okay, you take any compiler that will convert into bytecode, which is only one bytecode, that is universal, which any PVM will understand, bytecode, right? But this is Sushma's machine. This is Sushma's, Sushma's machine. This is Sudhir's machine, okay, and this is Shweta's machine. This is Shweta's, okay. So when Shweta wants to install, okay, a Python software, what Python software will she install? She will install the Python software which can understand the bytecode and convert that into her machine. Yes or no? That is Linux plus MIPS. Correct? No. So what will Sudhir install? Which software will Sudhir install? Sudhir will install a software which can understand the bytecode and convert that into the machine code related to Windows plus Spark. Yes or no? Windows plus Spark. Similarly, Sushma will install the PVM software, that is your Python software, which can convert this bytecode into its machine code. What is it? That is Windows plus what was it? Intel or something like this. Did you understand this combination of? Yes or no? So our compiler will compile and give the bytecode, only one bytecode. Take that bytecode which is common everywhere, okay, and give it to that respective machine. That software will convert that into that machine level language and give you the output. So who does this job? This job is actually done by a interpreter, which I'll show you now. Did you understand this analogy? Did you understand this analogy? Yes or no? So what I'm trying to tell you is bytecode is common on every machine. It's universal. It won't change. It is the same. Okay. But when you run this bytecode on your system, no, the machine code will change. Okay. That machine converting from bytecode to machine code is actually done by the interpreter. Got it? Got what I'm saying? Yes or no? Now let me show you the picture over here. The picture comes like this. Okay. It's here, right? So you will have your source code. Source code will be compiled, okay, and the compiled version, this is basically called as your bytecode, okay. It looks common and it is common for all. Take this bytecode and run on Sushma's machine or Sudhir's machine or Shweta's machine, okay. So everybody are having PVM installed in their computer, yes or no? That PVM particularly will actually convert that into the equivalent machine code, whichever machine they have, it will convert to that, and the CPU will execute it and give you the output. Okay, so who will do this line by line interpretation of this? The main work of that is done by the interpreter. That is why I've given you this yellow color I over here. Okay, no. So who will actually recognize what is there, the underlying hardware and all that? The PVM will do that job. Okay, so interpreter is a part of the PVM. So basically, because interpreter is basically doing this main job, okay, sometimes Python is basically called as an interpreted language. Okay, so many books, many internet and all say Python is an interpreted language, but I would like to call it as both compiled as well as an interpreted language, because internally this happens. Is that okay? Did you guys understand this? Yes or no? Okay, not okay? Okay, so okay, because I was teaching this to one student and he said, sir, but what guarantee that it is basically generating the bytecode? Listen to me carefully. What guarantee that it is generating the bytecode mandatorily? You want to see that? You want to see the bytecode? You want to see the bytecode? Just say yes, I will show you the bytecode. Yeah, okay, now listen. Shall I compile the C program first and then show it to you? Shall I compile the C program and then show? Yes, no, right? Okay, now listen, don't worry what I'm using and all. I'm using a Unix terminal. Okay, so I will first run the program. In C program, how? First compile and then run, correct? You'll get the binary, right? So I'll write a simple C program. Okay, hash include stdio.h, okay, and then I write int main, and then here I write in, let me write just simple printf hello world program. Okay, now if I want to run this code, what is it I have to basically do? What is it I have to do? I have to first compile this program, gcc 1.c. I have to compile this program. When I compile this, okay, first let me show you what is there. Okay, so first, how many files are there? Only one file is there, gcc. Then I compile. Once I compile, now see how many files are there. I get one output, a.out, correct? Yes or no? Yes, no, yeah? Yes, no, just tell me yes, no, right? When I compile, I basically get one a.out file, right? Now, there are two steps involved. One is writing the code, compiling the code. Now, what I will do is basically, three steps, and then run the code. I get this output, hello world. Agree, disagree? Agree, disagree? What all did I do? Can you put that in the comment box? I wrote the code, I compiled the code, and I run the code. Correct? Wrote the code, compiled the code, and run the code. right? Now see in Python, the same program I'll write in Python, vi1.py, okay, code compile and run, right? I'm writing the code in Python, okay? So what will I do? Only one line, print hello world, that's all. Print hello world, okay, that's all. Now what I will do is, now I'm just saying, I only wrote now, correct? I only wrote, code edit, Python 3, because I'm using the 3 version of Python for now, okay? That's all, I got the output, yes or no? Okay, in C I compiled it, I got the binary, then I executed the binary, then I got 2 steps were there, I mean 3 steps, that is write, compile and run. Here it was write and run, only 2 steps. So when I told this, students were asking me, you know, the earlier students asked me in the previous batch, Subhash, where is that compile? You told it is compiling, but where is the compile? It is directly giving the output, correct? No. So my dear friends, I want to clarify one thing. Don't get confused if when you're reading some other books and all that. Okay. In C languages, I can show you that there was a compiled file. Okay, I generated the binary file for that. But here I'm not able to show because all these steps are happening automatically. Automatically it is happening, okay? But understand that this is there, okay? Now you will say, Subhash, I will not believe you until you show. You might tell me that, yes or no? Are you telling that? I want to see how many are not believing me. You should be careful with those people. Huh? Where is that fellow? Who is telling? No one is telling. Danya Manogaran is telling, I will not believe you. So don't worry, I will prove it to you. Okay. So what I will do is, you want to actually give some options to the compiler. Okay. So compile. Don't worry about these commands. I'll tell you later. Okay. So Python 3. I'm not using the second version anywhere. It's obsolete. Python 3 -m py compile 1.py. Okay. Now after doing this step, what you get is, did you see one directory over here? CD PyCache, you get a directory like this. Inside this, you can see the bytecode vi1.cpython-38.pyc. Did you see pyc? Pyc is nothing but the compiled version of the Python file actually. Okay, so if I open that, you can see the bytecode. This is basically called as the bytecode. Okay, so basically this step is happening. Only thing is that it is not shown to you by the compiler for you guys. It is automatically happening in Python and it is interpreted. So therefore, sometimes people call it as compiled language. Most of the time people call it as interpreted language because it is happening automatically. But it is basically compiling into a bytecode, and the bytecode is then getting converted into machine code by the interpreter, and then it is getting executed. Do you want to see the bytecode in bytecode format? This is not in bytecode format. If you want to see this in the bytecode format, okay, let me show that also to you. Python 3 -m is an option. DIS, disassembler stands for disassembler, and then say, one second, why are you going out every now and then? One second, I'm just admitting him inside. Okay, okay, -m this 1.py. Okay, so this is basically your bytecode actually. Okay, so what are these bytecode? What is it containing? And I'll talk about it later. For now, just understand this is basically your bytecode. And if you want to run this, okay, I mean, yeah, you can just say Python 3 1.py and basically runs your code. Is that okay? Do you understand this? Okay, not okay? Is that okay? Everyone just say okay if you're okay with this. So this is the compilation process of your Python programming, Python code. Okay, yeah. Okay, cool. Then you guys have do you guys have another 15 more minutes so that we can complete out this chapter? I think you're not in a hurry. Are you all okay? Just another 15 more minutes. I'll give you some important concept, and then I don't want to be in a hurry. That is the reason. Okay, yeah. Now coming to the next topic. Okay, which are the different flavors of Python? After you wrote the code, did you compile first or did you run the code directly? Subhash, instead of typing privately, please put it in public. It's okay, so that everyone may be able to understand. Okay, after you wrote the code, did you compile first or did you run the code directly? Okay, so by just invoking Python 3, the tool Python 3, Subhash, it does 2 jobs automatically. Compiling and running, both has been done together. Okay, so in the second step, what I did was I separately told the tool to generate the bytecode, show it to me, the compiled code, and then you can run it. That is what I did. Okay, so basically Python's tool is good. It actually does both the job together. Is that okay? Yeah, whereas in C you don't have any interpreter and all those things. Okay, PVM stands for Python virtual machine, and that main role is done by the interpreter. Therefore, you basically call it as an interpreter. People started calling PVM as an interpreter. Is that okay, Subhash? Got it? Cool. All right. So what are the different flavors of Python? Okay. So when you download the software from python.org, following the steps that is given in the material, you will be downloading this version, which was C Python, which is written in pure C language. Python, the entire Python language is written in C language. Similarly, Java's compiler is written in C language. Java's JVM is written in C language. Okay. Most of the languages compiler are written in C language. C language is used for system programming. Okay, so this is one flavor, and if you want to know more about it, you can. Anyways, you'll be downloading it today by tomorrow. Okay, now we have something called as Jython. Okay, it was earlier called as JPython. It has now been renamed as Jython. Okay, Jython is another version of Python. Okay, which is used to integrate that Python language into Java and get some job done. Okay, integrating Python with Java. I mean, not the C Python. This is JPython. You cannot integrate C Python directly, right? So you basically have a version called as Jython. This version, this flavor of Python, you can call it, and you can integrate it along with Java, so that when you're compiling Java, that will also get compiled as a Java bytecode and then run. So basically, if you want to integrate Python related stuff into Java, then you can make use of Jython. Okay, and then you have something called as IronPython. IronPython is actually written in C#. It is by Microsoft, by C# and by Microsoft, and that is purely written so that to integrate Python with the C# language to do some specific applications, or to solve some problems related to C#. Okay, for that you have IronPython, and the same way you have something called as RubyPython, which is written to integrate with Ruby. Okay, and these are just an example. There are tens and tens of types of Python which are being coming up every day. Okay, I don't think all this is needed for you for now, so you can learn C Python. The rest would be easy for you guys. Is that okay? But these are the different flavors. So Sandeep, you were asking something at this point here. Actually, is this clear, or you want me to answer anything? Sandeep, you're here? Sandeep, you there? Sandeep? Slept, is it? Sandeep slept, is it? There is still time, 15 minutes, then you can sleep. Okay, I'll go ahead now. Okay, so the final topic for today is memory management in Python. Very, very, very important. So listen to it. Okay, how many are feeling sleepy? Just say sleepy. If you're feeling sleepy, tell me sleepy, no? If you're not feeling sleepy, say no, not sleepy. Another 10 minutes. Not interesting. What is not interesting, Subhash? Not sleepy. Okay. Not sleepy. Not sleepy. Okay. All right. Okay. So Subhash is the only one who is not interested. Rest of all are interested. I mean interesting. It is interesting. Okay. Okay. Thanks, man. Okay. Right. Now what happens here? Listen to me very carefully. Okay, not sleepy. Okay, now listen carefully, guys. It's very important. Listen carefully now. Okay, in this example, you can, I've tried my best to actually put it in a very systematic format over here. Okay, you all know what is the RAM. I think you have gone through the video that I've sent it to you. Okay, it's basically the RAM. And what will RAM contain? RAM will basically is a place where when your program is running. Okay, let me put a sketchbook now for you so that you'll understand. Do you want to take a picture of this? I'll remove it. Shall I remove this? Shall I remove this? Just take a quick pic so that you can revise later. Okay, I am removing this. Okay, cool. Now listen. Okay, so there are basically, you got to understand, there is a CPU. Okay, there is a RAM. Okay, and there is a hard disk. Okay, there is a hard disk. Okay, and all these are nothing but hardware parts. All these are what? Hardware. Yes or no? These are all your hardware. And who manages your hardware? Who manages your hardware? OS manages your hardware. Correct? Yeah. CPU. Okay, so when you write your Python program, where is it currently present? When you write your Python program, it is present on your file system, right? So this is the place where all your Python program would be present initially, 1.py. Okay, so when you compile that and run the code, what happens? The binary would be brought from hard disk into the RAM. Okay, so here that becomes your process. Okay, all your zeros, ones, binaries and all would be running over here. Okay, so who will take all these instructions and start running? CPU will fetch the instructions from the RAM. Okay, it will go back, execute, and it will start giving the output. So when your program is running, right, the entire memory required for your program is being stored in the RAM part of your memory, not on the hard disk and all that. When your program is executing, it would be happening on the RAM. Okay, now in C language you told int a, yes or no? In C language you told int a. Now who has the control over by saying int a? You are telling boss, give me some amount of memory, which is of type int and all. You have the control to say that. Similarly, if you know C language, there are functions like malloc, okay, calloc. Yes or no? Have you heard of this? Malloc, calloc and all that. Okay, you have something called as free and all that. The malloc and calloc and all is for allocating memory, free is for deallocating memory. Okay, you can call malloc, calloc, free for deallocating. Similarly, in Java or in C++, you can call new operator, delete operator, if you know C++. Okay, in Java there is no delete, but you have something called as new operator. It means you have, as a programmer, you can ask the program, ask the JVM to actually give you enough memory and all that, correct? Whereas in Python you have no control over the memory. You get that? You remember the first program I told you, right? So in this case over here, do you see that? Okay, in this program, did you see that you can say allocate int a comma b? Here you can say int a comma b. Okay, whereas in Python, did you allocate memory for a and b? Just say yes, no. Did you allocate memory for this? You did not allocate memory for this. Rather, who allocated the memory for you? Who allocated? Automatically the program, actually that is your PVM, automatically took care of the memory and all that. Yes or no? How did it take care of the memory? It is using this. It is like this. Okay, so the memory management in your PVM takes care like this. Okay, you will have a RAM basically over here. This on top of RAM. Who will manage the RAM? I told you, right, in the diagram, who will manage your RAM and all those things? The OS. In the OS there is another module, small module called as memory management unit. Memory management unit of the operating system will take care of your RAM. Okay, process management unit will take care of the process. File management unit will take care of all your file system and all those things, right? So similarly, this memory management unit is the one who will actually take care of the RAM, allocating memory, whether the RAM is free or all those things, scheduling, I mean, a lot of things like that, scheduling the memory for a given program, everything would be taken care by the memory management unit. Okay, so that is there for, that is called as operating system memory allocator. I call that like that. Okay, so for, especially for Python, okay, there is one layer called as Python's raw memory allocator. He is the one who will talk to the operating system on behalf of the Python virtual machine and see whether enough space is there for the Python program to store all the objects that is created in the program, like a is equal to 10, 5 is equal to 10 and all the memory gets created. No, so he keeps seeing whether that memory is there or not and all that. And in PVM, there are something called as, guys, this is important, just listen to me, within the Python virtual machine, there are something called as object specific memory allocators, not one or two, there are many. Okay, so this one, so object specific memory allocator will be for an integer, this fellow will be for a string, another fellow will be for a floating point, and another fellow would be for some other data type. Like that, these fellows will decide how much of memory has to be allocated for an integer. This fellow will decide how much of memory has to be allocated for a floating point. Another allocator will decide how much of memory has to be allocated for a list. Another allocator will decide how much of memory has to be allocated for an set. Like that, there are object specific memory allocators who will decide how much of memory has to be allocated for each and every item that you create within a programming language. Okay, and this is how the memory management has been done within your Python, which is not done in the same way in other programming languages. Okay, the entire control over memory is not with you, is with the Python, that is with your PVM, and you need not bother, or you cannot say allocate so much, don't allocate so much, remove the memory that was allocated, nothing. Everything entirely about memory or memory management is completely under the control of your PVM and not with you guys. Did you get that? Did you get that, what I'm saying? Okay, so that is, these are the people who will actually allocate memory for your objects in your Python. Okay, so this much you must know. Is that okay? Right? Yeah, okay, not okay, right? Okay, I think we have come to the end of today's session. Did you learn something new today? Did you learn something new today? Yeah, Awesome. Very nice. Okay. So I have an assignment for you. So tomorrow, by tomorrow before 12 o'clock, you are supposed to, in the group, you are supposed to tell the difference between Java and C and Java and Python. Is that okay? Make a table kind of thing, and don't put snapshots. Okay. Copy and paste it. The moment you put snapshot, what happens is everybody's phone will get filled with all the snapshots, and it is basically called as spamming. Okay, so just to make sure that you don't spam or you don't put photos, rather you actually copy the content and just try to paste it. Is that okay? In a very beautiful format. Subhash's format I really liked. It was very nice. And there is one more format. I think Chaitra, is it? Chaitra's format also was very neat, clean, and all that, very beautifully written. Okay, would you mind doing that? Tomorrow assignment, just do that and then do it. Don't copy paste from the internet. Try to research, see there, and then write it somewhere, copy it, and then paste. Will you do that? Yeah. Enjoy the session. 1 minute. Subhash is asking one final question. Which language is PVM built on? Okay, the one which I'm talking about now, C Python, is completely built using C language. Okay, and different have there is something called as PyPy. Like how you have C Python, there is something called as PyPython. PyPython. We simply call it as PyPy. It is written in Python itself. Okay, there is a Python which is written in Python itself. It is called as PyPy. Okay, no. So there are different versions of Python. So we basically work on C Python from now on. Is that okay? And that's the one which you get when you install it, when you download and install it. Is that okay? Yeah, fine. Hope you learned something new today. Fine, guys. So meet you tomorrow. Be ready by 7:30 and don't come late. Let us start the session by 8 o'clock sharp. Okay. Until then, take care. Bye-bye. See you.